English translation 82nd contact. Tuesday, 6th of September 1977, 1804 Audi Chars.
As I have promised you, this week you will receive the exact dates for the individual members of the group and for the periodical stay at the Sohar Center. It is true that in the future all contact reports containing such things will be treated strictly confidentially for a certain time and will only be given to the pertinent group members so that, for the time being, no outsiders will come into possession of these and other data.
That is absolutely clear to me.
I know that, but I had to remind you of it again.
That is all right, girl. Unfortunately, I have just realized that I forgot something again, because I should have asked you something. It is about the copper casing of the pyramid, namely, how to join it together.
Where did you leave the relevant records?
They are on the table in the hall.
That is still no problem. Wait, so you see there is your table. So what are these records?
Terrific, girl. What you can conjure up with your screens. Yes, look, there are the notes. You see, Renato and Engelbert asked me if you could insert the plates into each other in this manner, you see.
I do not quite understand.
Well, it is like this. The plates are angled here so that they overlap and then, you see, are pushed into each other like this. Now the question is whether we can do it in this manner.
Surely they can. The only important thing is that they adhere together immovably.
Well, then the problem is solved. But now a question about the aeration of the pyramid. How should I do it, and above all, where?
Use the lower room as a ventilation shaft. Wait, I project the picture onto a screen for you, now you see? You made the entrance and exit there, as a door must also be inserted. In this door, you let in two ventilators that work for each other, one introducing fresh air and the other exhausting old air. This technique is sufficient for good ventilation of the lower and upper rooms. As far as I know, you have fans that work absolutely noiselessly, which is why you should use them for this purpose.
Is that really enough?
Certainly.
Well, then this problem is solved too. Now the question of lighting. It is supposed to be very weak somehow. What should I use for that?
Electric lighting is appropriate, but it should not develop too much heat, so you should look for suitable small lights.
Then this case is also clear. So far, I do not have any more questions. You can give me the data when you have nothing else.
Before the data explanation, I have some other important issues to discuss with you, namely the composition of your core group. The point here is that the individual members of the group should be inserted into a division that corresponds to their insertion into all important matters, that is to say, into the following. 1. Equality 2. Equivalence 3. Understanding 4. Opinion 5. Recognition 6. Cooperation 7. Realization. Overall, these 7 points denote the total value of the material consciousness-based aptitude potential with regard to the fulfillment of tasks. In this sense, the manual activity and the insertion into the connected areas are evaluated as well as the equality and equivalence to the other group members, but also the understanding and comprehension of all values and their recognition and execution find their values in the material, conscious, and spiritual areas. It has recently emerged from these forms, through the efforts of the High Council, that various group members are not yet in a position today to take upon themselves self-management in all matters in the sense of a high distribution of advice and their evaluation. Their senses are still too much trapped in the hierarchical sphere from which they are not able to free themselves in a short time. Thus, it results that one or the other tries to have a commanding effect on the other members of the group, whereby Margaret, in particular, is strongly dominant, which she should remedy within a useful period of time. If she fails to take account of this advice by taking her own decision, She will jeopardize the prospect of a residence-sharing community and the peaceful existence of the community and the center in general. Otherwise, she also endangers this by her wrong actions in relation to her ritual acts with regard to her spiritualistic faith and participation in such delusional ritual acts, which have already been made clear several times. As already explained in our last contact, she thereby promotes the ever-increasing danger that negative swinging waves become free, which are analyzed by negative forces and transformed to the detriment of the group. It is not that Margaret herself pushes these vibrations out from herself, but that the medium unconsciously frees and radiates data for Margaret from her subconscious which she, Margaret, does not allow in a meaningful and correct manner. Seances with a medium are therefore extremely dangerous for her because they reveal and broadcast secrets that should remain secrets. The truth is that Margaret's various seances over the last 3 months have released and radiated secrets from her subconscious by the medium that referred to the Sohar Center. These negative vibrations in this sense were located and analyzed by the Giza intelligences, who were only then informed about the emergence of the center. The consequences of this are known to you. But all this could have been avoided if Margaret had followed our advice and had not given herself further to these dangerous seances. But she lets herself be deceived in very evil form, and her secrets are torn away, which is very harmful for everyone. She is well aware that the information and data, etc. given to her by the medium are torn from her own subconscious by the medium through connection, but nevertheless, she does not change her actions and thus endangers all of our tasks. No other member of the group acts as unreasonably and even destructively in this form as Margaret, which is to be suggested to her another time. The seeming goodness of the medium is deceptive, for the action rests in false values and leads to delusion and madness. But it is not only Margaret who is subject to a false act, for other members also indulge in unreasonable things, even if not in the same form as Margaret. Probably the worst behavior is the furtherance of the non-understanding of the value of the Sohar Center, as Herbert very clearly shows, which is why he should strive to understand the value in a more stringent manner. There are also many other concerns which I would not like to mention at the moment, apart from those concerning Bernadette, who is the one who is furthest behind in all things and, like Margaret, is very dangerous because of her attachment to the euphoric meditation which she has already built up to a very dangerous degree through the influence of Mr. Glansman. And speaking of this, I have to explain that it is extremely dangerous for the existence of your community and for the accomplishment of all our tasks if you make outsiders false allies and delegate even the smallest matters to your outsiders for completion or simply commission such to settle any matters. But now to the actual core group. The grouping takes place according to the aforementioned value of the fulfillment of tasks, that is to say, according to the employability and ability to fulfill regulating instructions in the sense of tasks arising. The relevant interim analyses have shown that despite all attempts at equality, equal evaluation, understanding, perception, recognition, cooperation and implementation of the individual group members in the community, the form of leadership in the sense of an issuance of high advice does not yet produce any noteworthy values, according to which a form of leadership in the sense of a high council advice cannot yet find application. For the time being, therefore, it is still necessary, in order to set up the center and to fulfill the tasks of all group members, to allow a somewhat loose hierarchical form of leadership to apply for a certain time in order to allow each individual group member to become acquainted with the form of a high council leadership. This means, however, that each individual member of the group should make stringent efforts to work his or her way into the form of leadership of a high council and to live according to it, from which everything that is commanding and refusing is dismantled in order to give satisfaction to an independent, intentional decision of a high council. Directions on how to learn in this regard shall be provided as necessary and shall be submitted in an instructive manner. Analytical records have shown that, in addition to various other points 3, 4, 5, 8, 11, and 12 of the rules of order that have already been established are also disregarded to a great extent in the main, and in particular by group members who currently live outside the residential community of the center. Such behavior and conduct will provoke anger and strife, which should be avoided in the future in view of our difficult task and in favor of love. It is very regrettable that these concerns need to be discussed anew, for it clearly testifies to the fact that the necessary power of change of things towards better forms has not yet been worked out and evaluated. All these things of irrationality have the consequence that the High Council has had to take stock of the situation and can only give advice in the form of interim advice, which can only change again if the members of the group are placed in an appropriate form and to the necessary extent in the rules which are urgently needed to be followed. As a form of intermediate council, the advice is therefore given that a provisional grouping should take place in the core group in the manner of an overall value in detail and for the individual, which is changeable to equal value depending on the state of evolution attained in a certain period of time. Thus, according to the intermediate council, the individual members of the core group are to be temporarily subdivided as follows in order to be able to examine visibly a changed form in the evolution inspection.
List of persons and their classification are not relevant for publication.
So this is the temporary group division in the sevenfold area of the total number of 49 core group members. The members not yet mentioned by name will only appear in the course of the next few years and join the group, after which they must be granted the same rights in the area of the rules of order as are given and learned in the group. The aforementioned group members, who are listed by name, are responsible for their own decision-making in relation to core group membership, for which they must make a final decision by the date of the last day of October of this year. Now, however, the dates should follow in reference to the Sohar Center, whereby it must be explained that the times must be adhered to punctually and in their full values. If, nevertheless, there are failures in the fulfillment due to illness, etc., then the lost duration must be made up, whereby, however, the usual time may not be exceeded, and which must be made up after 2 o'clock. Concentrative meditation may only take place during the night hours, never during the day, whereby the time from 7 o'clock in the evening to 5:30 in the morning is valid. During this period alone, the concentrative meditations may be carried out, whereby the calculated time division for the individual group members is formed as follows.
List of persons and their division are not relevant for publication.
These are the previous data for a certain short period of time which are subject to change after 3 months, from the date of the 3rd of February 1978. Until then, care should be taken to ensure that the timetable is fully adhered to, so that there are no shifts that would call the whole undertaking into question. If any changes occur as a result of a member leaving the core group during this time, their stored swinging waves are automatically eliminated through precautionary measures in the Sohar Center. These are the key issues and data that I had to give you today and that I will give you tomorrow in the course of the day. Now I have to go because I am called to another obligation. Farewell and pay my dear regards to all.
Man, girl, that is also enough for me today. Goodbye, and simply come back quite soon.
That will be already in the next days. Farewell, my friend.